This is Stu Turgel, your host for the PHOENIX File, a community conversation with the people and programs that are making a positive impact on the quality of life in the Valley of the Sun. Research clearly shows that a child's most important developmental years are those leading up to kindergarten, and Arizona children are among the most fortunate in America because of the programs they receive from First Things First, a state agency committed to helping Arizona kids 5 and younger receive the quality education, health care, and family support they need to arrive at school healthy and ready to succeed. Coming up next on today's edition of the PHOENIX File, I'll be talking with Liz Barker Alvarez, Chief Policy Advisor at First Things First, about the way their extraordinary early childhood programs are helping children and families throughout Arizona. Stay tuned for the PHOENIX File, coming up next right here on Radio PHOENIX, where the Valley comes to talk, sing, connect. Good evening. I'm Stu Turgel, your host for the PHOENIX File. This is a weekly news magazine that features the people and programs making a positive difference on the quality of life in the Valley of the Sun. The renowned child psychologist Chaim Ganot, in his iconic book called Between Parent and Child, says that children are like wet cement. Whatever falls on them makes an impression. And since young children are so impressionable, it seems only right that we do all we can to shape young minds and bodies so that they're prepared to enter school healthy and ready to learn. In Arizona, we're very, very fortunate to have an extraordinary state agency that focuses on this critically important work. It's the Arizona Early Childhood Development and Health Board, better known as First Things First. And my guest tonight is Liz Barker Alvarez, the Chief Policy Advisor at First Things First. Liz, welcome to the PHOENIX File.
Thanks, it's great to be here.
It's great to have you along tonight. Liz, First Things First is still a relatively young state agency, so why don't you tell us how it came to be and what is its mission?
Well, Stu, as you mentioned, First Things First is based on science that shows that a child's most important developmental years are those before kindergarten. So through a citizens ballot initiative, Arizona voters created First Things First to expand early education, health, and family support programs that help children arrive at school ready to succeed. Our mission is to partner with communities to create a family-centered and high-quality early childhood system that really does support the development, the health, and the early education of all of Arizona's children birth through age 5 so that they arrive at kindergarten prepared to be successful. To fund this work, the voters set aside a portion of tobacco revenue, and 90 cents of every dollar received goes directly to benefit Arizona's children. In addition, those funds go to fund early childhood programs that have been proven to work.
That is an important addition to the armament of early childhood tools in the toolbox of the state of Arizona, for sure. And while FTF is a state agency, in many ways, it feels like it functions a lot like a foundation with many, many volunteers from throughout Arizona. I think every county in Arizona is represented, along with all the tribal nations in our state. They all play an instrumental role in the way that funds are distributed on behalf of kids 0 to 5 in Arizona. Where does FTF get its funding, and how does it decide how to expend those funds to support programs that help young children? How does it all work?
Well, as I mentioned, the funding comes from a tax on tobacco products that's set aside specifically for this initiative, these early childhood programs. And First Things First is really built on the premise that there isn't a one-size-fits-all approach to school readiness, okay? And we recognize that we have a very diverse state and that the programs that are offered in communities really need to reflect the needs of the children in those communities. So to achieve that, we have 28 regional councils statewide and their staffed by volunteers that really represent all of those different parts of our community that have a stake in making sure that our children have a world-class education really from birth to their career. So parents, early educators, K-12 educators, health professionals, and business people, faith leaders, philanthropists, these are the people that are volunteering on these regional partnership councils. They volunteer their service, and they are really the ones that are making the decisions. They live and they work in the communities that they serve. They do extensive studies on the needs of the children in their communities, what's already available to children. They talk to leaders in their area, and that way they know best what children in their communities need. So they recommend to the statewide board the early childhood programs that will improve outcomes for the children in those specific communities. And then, as you mentioned, through competitive grants with community organizations or contracts with local governments, then those programs are delivered to children in that community.
In full disclosure, I had the honor and privilege of chairing one of First Things First's regional partnership councils for several years, a few years ago, and I know that when I look back over all the years that I was involved with children's issues, that was one of the most gratifying. The way that the system works is nothing short of remarkable. The regional partnership councils and the volunteers locally working hand in glove with an extraordinary staff of people at First Things First. So I do have that little bit of insight I should share with everyone, so I don't sound like I've never heard of First Things First. I know it quite well. I said in my introduction that school readiness is at the heart of what First Things First does, but it might be helpful if you tell our listeners what you mean when you talk about school readiness, and how does FTF focus its resources to meet that objective?
Sure. Really, when we talk about school readiness, we're talking about children being ready for kindergarten in all areas of their development. A lot of time when we talk about school, we focus a lot on cognitive development. So does a child know their ABCs? Can they count from 1 to 10? And that kind of thing. And that is very important. But a child develops more than just cognitively. So are children healthy? Are there any developmental issues or problems with their hearing or their vision that haven't been detected that can really impact their learning later on? And have those been detected? Have they been addressed? Are children socially and emotionally ready? You know, can they follow directions? Are they able to pay attention? Can they get along with classmates? It really is about addressing the whole child. And so there isn't any one program or service that's going to do all of that. So we focus a lot on providing a continuum of programs that really give families options when it comes to supporting their child's health and learning, whether that's addressing health issues, whether that's choosing high quality early education, or parents developing their own skills so that they're able to develop so that they're able to support their child's health and learning at home.
Well, I think that's such an important part of the whole formula of First Things First. It's not just about early childhood education, as critically important as that is, but it's also about their health and about all of their early childhood development, everything that goes into making children ready for school. I guess the question that a lot of people might be thinking is, well, why is it so important to focus on those first 5 years of a child's life?
You know, we talk a lot, I think most of our community really recognizes that in order for children to be successful, they need a high quality education. Well, it's really hard to climb the ladder of success if the first rung is broken. And science teaches us that 90% of the brain develops by age 5. The way that the brain develops is through the interactions that children have with their environment and with their caregivers. Really positive interactions with their caregivers help the brain to develop in ways that promote learning. One of those examples is, so for example, gaps in a child's vocabulary can start to appear as young as 9 to 18 months. And by age 5, children who have really high quality experience can have double or triple the vocabulary that their lesser fortunate counterparts have. What that means then, that translates into vocabulary at ages 3 and 4 correlates to reading comprehension at grades 3 and 4. And of course, 3rd and 4th grade reading comprehension is a predictor of whether or not a child is going to graduate from high school. So it's all really interconnected. And since the brain is forming the most in the early years, that really represents our best opportunity to give our children a strong start in their education.
That really is the most important point, is that the brain is developing in those first and formative years.
Through every interaction, through every experience that a child has, it's creating those neurons in the brain that is really building a strong foundation for learning.
So this isn't just a hunch we've got. We've got a lot of science and a lot of data to
Sure.
back this up.
Yeah, 30
right?
years worth, yeah.
Well, let me remind our listeners that support for Radio Phoenix comes in part from Native Health, which is located at 4041 North Central Avenue in Suite C in Phoenix. Native Health provides primary medical, dental, behavioral health, and WIC services targeted for urban Native Americans. More information is available at 602-279-5262 or online at nativehealthphoenix.org. Liz, are there any special characteristics of Arizona children that make First Things First indispensable? Why does Arizona need First Things First?
Sure. Well, in the same way that high-quality experiences help the brain grow in ways that promote learning, challenges in early childhood can negatively impact brain growth. And data tells us that Arizona kids face challenges when it comes to school readiness. So, for example, 28% live in poverty. That's more than 1 in 4 young children in poverty. 37% live with a single parent, more than 1 in 3. 9% are born to a teen parent, so almost 1 in 10. 65% of young children don't attend preschool. That's almost 2 out of 3. And 9% lack health insurance, almost 1 in 10. When you combine all of those factors, it creates a lot of stress in families. It creates fewer opportunities for parents to interact in positive ways with their young children, and that in turn then impacts how the brain is growing for children who face that many challenges.
We're a very diverse state with a multitude of needs that are unique based on where families live. So tell us what kinds of programs First Things First has to support school readiness for young kids.
Sure. Really, the programs that are available can vary by region. And so for specific information about what's available in their communities, families can visit firstThingsFirst.org, select their region, and there will be a list of the programs that are available in that area. But in general, we focus on 3 specific areas: strengthening families, improving the quality of early learning, and health. When we talk about strengthening families, we recognize that parents really are their child's first and most important teachers. And so we focus on funding a continuum of strategies, again, that give families options. So everything from attending, say, a community-based parenting education class to actually being able to have someone that comes into your home regularly and helps you to work with your child. Programs also in the community that focus on early literacy, on giving children opportunities to interact with other children, and helping parents interact with other parents, and so they're growing their skills. Other things that we fund in terms of strengthening families are the Arizona Parent Kit. So the family of every newborn can leave the hospital with a kit that gives them resources, tools, tips on how to support their child's health and learning at home. We also, in collaboration with Southwest Human Development, fund the Birth to 5 helpline. That's at 877-705-KIDS. And you're a parent, your child is doing something, you're facing a parenting situation, you don't know what to do, you can call and talk to a developmental expert or a nurse who's going to give you some advice either on how to deal with the situation or whether you need to follow up with a professional.
Give us that number again, and the name of the program. It's really important.
Sure, it's the Birth to 5 helpline, and it's 1-877-705-KIDS. So that's 5437.
Yeah, that is wonderful particularly for first-time moms and dads to.
Yeah, I know one parent said they don't come with an instruction manual.
They don't come with an instruction
They really
manual.
don't. And the research really shows us that many families in our community don't have the connections that people used to have. They don't have family nearby. They may lack support. And so having that lifeline right there is really important. We also talk about the importance of early learning. And not all early learning is the same. It needs to be high quality.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to have more of my conversation with Liz Barker Alvarez of First Things First. You're listening to the Phoenix File. I'm Stu Turgel, and this is Radio Phoenix. Welcome back to the Phoenix File. I'm your host, Stu Turgel, and my guest tonight is Liz Barker Alvarez. And now more of our conversation about first things first. Liz, what can parents and families do to support their young child's learning? They want to really be hands-on with their kids. Give us some examples and tips for young families.
Sure. One of the things that I want to make sure that I reinforce is that parents and families really are their child's first and best teachers. And we recognize, parenting, especially in these times, is very, very hard. But we also want to emphasize that supporting learning is really easy, and it really is about making the most of those everyday moments. We usually say talk, read, sing, and play. And there are so many opportunities throughout the day to talk with your young children. And I know that, especially with babies, we think, well, they don't talk back, but they're listening to everything that we're saying. They're watching our reactions, and they really are learning from those interactions. So if you're in the car, pointing out different things that you see, if you're at the supermarket, you can point out different letters. I can't reinforce enough the importance of daily reading. 20 minutes a day will make a crucial difference in the development of the child's vocabulary and in their ability to learn. And you can start reading with babies, with board books. Let them manipulate the board books. As adults, we tend to be so linear. We're like, let's get to the end of the book. Let's get to the end of the book. Don't rush kids. Point out things in the book, teach them different words. As the children get older, ask them about the story they're reading and where do you think this is going to go next, or why do you think that character did that particular thing. The important thing is to be constantly talking and interacting with that child in really positive ways. And let's not forget the importance of play, because that is how young children learn. Follow their lead, go along with it, let their imagination run wild. You're helping them develop language skills, develop that imagination, and really building the brain in positive ways.
I heard it said once that play is a child's work. And when you think about that, that is what occupies so much of a child's time. How do we know that all of this really makes a difference?
Because we know how the brain is shaped. Mm-hmm. And the neural connections, those brain connections that really create that strong foundation for learning, they are based on what a child experiences in their environment and their interactions with other people. They have this really interesting term, it's called serve and return. So if you picture a tennis game where the ball is going back and forth, that is actually how a child's brain develops. They put something out there into the world, they watch how their environment, how the caregiver reacts to it, then they throw something else out there. And through that constant interaction, their brain is getting feedback and it's forming. We think that a child is just filling a dump truck with sand in the park. They're really learning about volume. They're learning about physics. When they interact with other children, they're learning about negotiating. They're learning about sharing. But it's all through the way that children learn, which is play, and through interacting with their caregivers. And so the more opportunities that you have, talking, reading, singing, playing, all of those things, which to us seem very simple, are the way that children's brains work. And yes, it was Mr. Rogers who said that play is the work of early childhood.
Yeah, I love that line. At this time of year, parents and others are thinking about buying gifts for young children. So what should we keep in mind when we're shopping for kids?
The most important thing that I can recommend is just to keep it really simple. I think all of us have had probably the experience of spending a lot of money on the newest gadget that has all the bells and whistles and lights and is usually rather expensive. And then we're shocked when a child plays with a box more than they play with a toy.
The box and the paper.
And we're like, why is that? And that is because the box lets a child use their imagination, and the toy may not allow the child to use their imagination the way they want to. So they're really drawn to the box. Some good recommendations, always, we're going to recommend books because they encourage reading with children. simple toys, blocks, balls, bubbles, things that they can really manipulate and watch and think about. For slightly older children, board games and other things that are really you're going to be able to do together. And I can't even stress how important it is when we're talking about toys to think of things that really do allow you to play with your children, that are going to encourage your own interaction with them and participation with them, because again, they're watching your reactions, they're listening to your words, and their brain is developing through that.
All the time. It never stops.
Never stops.
For those who don't have the privilege of having their own children, they're not parents, are there some things that they can do to help in the development of young children?
Oh, absolutely. We all benefit when kids arrive at kindergarten prepared to be successful. We know from a variety of different studies that early childhood really impacts much more than school success. The experiences of early childhood are tied to increases in graduation rates. Those then in turn are related to increases in personal earnings. What happens in early childhood is tied to economic development. It's tied to military readiness, and also decreased welfare dependence and decreased crime. So that's a lot of bang for the buck when we invest in early childhood. And so I really encourage people, whether they're parents or not, to really increase their knowledge about early childhood. They can follow us on Facebook and Twitter to get a lot of information about the importance of early childhood. And most importantly, they're able then to share that information with their personal and professional networks, and really help to build a community dialogue that reinforces the importance of supporting children in those critical early years.
Are there volunteer opportunities for people who want to get involved with First Things First?
Sure there are. The most important one is, serving on a regional partnership council. As I mentioned before, there are seats on regional partnership councils that probably match the interest of almost anyone. If they're a business leader, a faith leader, a philanthropist, and there are large seats. So I'm interested in early childhood.
And each council has 11 members? Each
council has 11 members, and people can serve on a regional partnership council either where they live or where they work. And they're 4-year terms. It's a volunteer opportunity, 10 to 15 hours a month. And as you mentioned, from having served on regional partnership councils, so many of our members find it so rewarding that they want to serve on more than one term. So that's just one way. But,
and all over the state.
And all over the state. The other thing, if individuals don't have that much time, they can become trained in early childhood messaging, and they can help to spread the word. I guarantee you, no matter what your job is, you can help to spread the word in our community about the importance of early childhood and really build that public support for young children.
Liz, in the few minutes that we have left, I'd like for you to think about some of the children and families that have been served by First Things First's programs, and share with us a story or two, if you have them, so we can sort of put a face on who it is that all of this is about. What
Sure.
It's all about.
I'm remembering a story that I heard about a mom in North Phoenix. She was a single mom of a little 3-year-old little girl, and her job was filling the vending machines at school districts. And one day she's at an elementary school district, and she had started to get a little bit worried about her toddler because she felt like she was doing a really good job, teaching her child her letters and her numbers, etc. But she worried that as an only child, her little girl wasn't getting a lot of opportunities to interact with other children, and she wondered if when it came time for her little girl to go to kindergarten, would she be ready for that experience? So she asked there at the school district if they had anything for kids before they entered kindergarten, and we happen to have a First Things First funded family resource center in that district. And so the mom found out that there were a variety of programs where her child could be in one room learning crafts, interacting with other children, songs, more ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, information, etc. And then the mom could be in another part of the center learning how she could translate those experiences, keep that learning for her daughter going at home. So when her daughter went to kindergarten, she felt absolutely ready. Her child came into kindergarten with double the vocabulary of other children, and by first grade was reading at a second grade level.
Wow.
And so she knew that those experiences had mattered. Another couple in South Phoenix that I'm recalling would take their child to a child care center, and every time they dropped the little girl off or picked her up, she would be crying. They were concerned about, well, is my child really learning anything here? So they went to qualityfirstaz.com. That's another resource that First Things First provides in this community, qualityfirstaz.com, and they researched what makes a high-quality setting and what are some high-quality settings in our community. They then took their child and enrolled her in a high-quality center, and were shocked that their child is learning math, their child is learning science, the teachers are interacting with the family and really including the family in the learning experiences. And so, again, her child was ready for kindergarten. She had no concerns and is doing really well as a second grader now.
Those are great stories, and that really helps us understand what all these resources are about. One more time, where can people go to learn more about First Things First, or to find out ways in which they can volunteer to support your work?
Sure. Just visit firstthingsfirst.org and click on the link that says Connect, and you will be given a range of opportunities that exist for you to participate in the important work of early childhood.
Fabulous. I'm happy we were able to have this conversation tonight about the really important work of First Things First and its untiring efforts to support the healthy development and learning of Arizona's youngest children. The families with young children in Arizona have an important advocate and partner in First Things First, which is dedicated to ensuring that all Arizona children are ready to succeed in school and in life. It seems to me that if First Things First didn't exist, our state would just definitely have to create it. Liz, thanks for being with me tonight, and thanks to you and everyone involved with First Things First for what you do for Arizona's children.
Thank you.
Well, that's our show for this week. I'll be back next Tuesday night when my guest will be Pam Gaber of Gabriel's Angels. Gabriel's Angels is a pet therapy program that visits facilities serving abused and at-risk children. So until next time, thanks again to my guest, Liz Barker Alvarez of First Things First, and thanks to all of you for joining me on the Phoenix File. For Radio Phoenix, this is Stu Turgel.